I knew even through those darkest times that he loved me.
Go show up. It's not that hard.
It's fun as well because I kind of get to see the Father's heart. I get to see God's heart towards me.
Because children are amazing observers and poor interpreters.
I have a good relationship with my boys, but I long for fellowship with my boys, okay?
Show up, be there, try, have a backbone.
This is how you hold a snake so that it doesn't bite you.
I wish I was perfect, but I am not.
If I haven't been on my hands and knees wrestling, playing in the yard, on the trampoline, they need it.
Time really does fly by faster than you think.
Time is the language that they speak.
Her last words to me after I said, "Mom, I love you," she said to me, "I know. I know." And, I hope as a dad, I hope as a parent that my children know that.
Welcome to the Mick Pat Show. I'm Mick.
I'm Pat.
And we're with you guys again this week on another episode of Fatherhood of Origin. Mm-hmm. And we're coming to the end of this initial set of episodes that we've planned out and recorded. But Pat, go ahead, give us another rundown for anyone who hasn't been listening, anyone who's just chiming in for the first time. What the heck is Father of Origin about?
Yeah, so we think that dads are important, and we love to hear people's stories around their dads and what it's like to be a dad now. And we see a world, both in a broadly, also locally, that has brokenness around dads, with fathers present or non-present, or fathers who have. There's a whole wide range of from abuse and neglect over to just some of the maybe just wounding things you can experience as a kid growing up, over to also the awesome things that dads do for us, the way that dads instill confidence in us, teach us how to grow up into adults and into men, and the way that dads really are heroes in a lot of ways. And so we want to elevate fatherhood in general, and we also want to elevate stories of people who we see as good fathers and people who are figuring it out, but guys who are, intentional in raising their kids, and intentional in being in their lives. And so, yeah, we just want to continue to hear more people's stories. We've heard some really cool stuff so far, and tonight we have our guest, Red. So, yeah. So how's it going tonight?
It's good. I'm glad to be here. It's
Happy you're here, man.
Taking me a little while to get over here.
There's no problem. No problem. We have busy schedules and kids. When you have kids and wives and jobs and all that, it's like it can be a challenge to carve out time. And we appreciate that too, that you are, that you're here and that you're taking time away from your family to be with us and hang out tonight, and time to share about your story and just talk about being a dad. So tell us about where you're from, who you are, just a little bit so people have some context.
Red.
Yeah.
My nickname for tonight. Let's see. 38 years old. I've been married for coming on 17 years. 3 little boys. I'm 6 years old, 4 years old, 2 years old. Originally from North Carolina. Was born in overseas. My dad was a fighter pilot. Yeah. Went to school in North Carolina, met my lady, asked her to marry me.
You met her like in high school?
Went to college. Went to high school in North Carolina. Went to college in North Carolina. Met her there. We got engaged, got married. Wanted to leave and cleave for the first year, so we went to Boulder. Do people know where this is being recorded?
Don't matter.
They know generally, yeah.
We talk about local breweries and stuff.
Okay, yeah. Great. So then we moved here to the place that you might know about.
The Deuce.
And it's been wonderful. Yeah. So and I work with kids. That's
Yeah.
what my job is. My job is to work with kids and equip adults to walk in mentoring relationships with kids. So
Awesome.
Right on. And we're open about it here that we love Jesus. And that's another reason why we have guys like you coming on here and guys who spend time, with kids, telling them the good news and telling them about just a better way and good right living and you're in that space where it's a battleground for kids, and I think that lots of your fatherhood stuff kind of probably there's some crossover there with just like there's so many kids who just need equipping and mentoring and teaching and understanding and love and compassion, and so that's awesome. You do a good job at it because I've seen you do it for 10 years now, so that's a little bit of time. Also.
I know we've been riding together for a minute. Not as close anymore, but
it's all right. That's all right. But so we want to hear. Tell us a little bit about. Will you share your story about your dad as a kid? And tell us about a little bit about who he was.
Yeah, my dad is kind of preserved in my mind forever in like hero status because of when he died. So my dad died when I was 6 years old, and he was a fighter pilot, flew the F-15, and before that was the F-4. He went down in the Gulf during the Gulf conflict in a training exercise. So my memory of my dad is entirely from the vantage point of a little boy the age of my son right now, which I think about all the time. I don't remember my mom and my dad fighting. Maybe like raised voices from like the back room, maybe, but pretty minimal. He was just this hero status guy. I mean, he was a fighter pilot. I didn't know how awesome that was when I was little. Now I'm like, it's still so awesome. But like as I got older, I was like, oh yeah, not very many kids with dads. I mean, I was in a military town, so it was like kind of dime a dozen. But yeah, I mean, we would be so thrilled when he would come home. He would, be on the front porch, ring the doorbell, green flight suit, black boots, patches all over it. And we would ride his boots in as he walked in. He would always compliment my mom's cooking. I now know that he had like a swallowing. Sometimes his throat would close up when he was swallowing. It might have been an allergy. It might have just been like a strange kind of hybrid reflux. I don't know. But he would excuse himself sometimes from the meal because so I never knew that was even happening. I just thought he needed to go to the restroom or something. But he was like quietly choking. But he taught me a work ethic. I mean, I remember following him around with a little toy mower in the front lawn, and then my mom would bring lemonade out. I would drink lemonade. He would drink lemonade. Going to the dump was the most fun thing. Like kids were always at our house. My friends were always at our house wanting to hang out with my dad. And he came from a long line of men who loved the Lord. So his father planted a church in Denver called Galilee Baptist. Or he didn't plant it. He took it over from my great-great-grandfather, a guy named Joshua Gravitt, who started the Denver Rescue Mission. And
wow, dude.
I know. It's like I
history.
learned my family history coming out here. And there's a book called Patriarch of the Rockies that kind of chronicles my great-great-grandfather's life. And
wow, I didn't know that.
I know. I didn't know it either until maybe like 8 years ago. I read it the first time. I was like, okay.
Wow.
So that kind of stuff, I think also, speaking of fatherhood and where you came from and identity, I think learning you hear in the Old Testament, the boys and the children talk about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then learning my backstory, I was like, oh, I also follow the God of Peter, Ronald, and Joshua.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was Joshua Gravitt. So my second son's middle name is Gravitt. to pull that thread through and just to remember where I came from.
Yeah.
So that's some of it.
Yeah. Definitely.
The you got brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The oldest.
Mm.
My brother is a fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm.
My sister is double master. She has a heart for people, so she is wanting to work with women who need an advocate. So she'll be doing social work and counseling and that kind of thing. But she's in Oregon. But yeah, we were little when the black cars pulled into our driveway with the news. I was at a sleepover. I was 6 years old. My brother's 4. My little sister was her first birthday.
Wow, that's crazy. That's almost identical to your kids' lineup.
I know.
In ages.
It's been a crazy period. Like I'll come home, look at them, watching them play. And I look at my wife and I'm just like, that'd be so hard.
Yeah. It's interesting. I guess before last, I think, but he now sees his son, and his son is at the age he was when his father died. He's essentially at the age that his father was when he passed away. So he's kind of going through a little bit of the same thing, I think, that you're probably experiencing of like this is weird. Not necessarily like I don't think he said anything about fear, trepidation, but he spends a lot of time thinking about it. Smoke break.
Smoke break.
Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you could put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations, complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick Pat Show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution.
Yeah, I'm a little older now, but I don't feel old. So it's crazy to realize how young my dad must have felt. And Ben,
Yeah.
I mean, he was such a goofball. He would, on TDY missions or whatever, he would bring like an old man mask in the cockpit.
That's awesome.
And so then when if they were going to be celebrating someone in the squadron, he'd be getting out of the plane and take off his helmet, and everybody sees like, and this was back when this was before Mission Impossible, when people were pulling masks off and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And before Top Gun. So he had old Mr. Cruise beat.
And so he's got this old man mask on. People are like, they'll throw you in a pool sometimes, and there's all kinds of things that are inside the Air Force. But my brother kind of picked that up, and when my brother was doing survival training, he packed a huge inflatable raft in his side pocket with a palm tree on it. So when you blow this thing up, so he's supposed to be floating. It's supposed to simulate that you know how to you ejected from the cockpit and did a water. You have to survive on the water for whatever. And he's out there on a inflatable raft with drink holders and with a palm tree
shading them.
Just so much fun.
Hey, that's how
I think the Air Force is my favorite branch, just because, I know it gets a rap for the chair force, but if you're in the right chair,
It's pretty BA.
it is.
It's pretty badass, man.
But it's also just, there's like a pub in every squadron and whatever.
No, I think
But it's also, of course, my whole family was Air Force. So my grandfather, I went to college thinking I was going to be a fighter pilot. I got distracted by going to the high school.
yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Young life, yeah.
Oh, man. I forgot. I had a question I wanted to ask you about one of those stories. But
I want to ask about your mom and dad. Like, how did they meet? What's kind of their story? What do you kind of know about their story?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of history before you came along.
They met in Florida. My mom was a nurse in the military. She's originally from the Northeast, so Massachusetts, Boston area. My dad is like a California, Colorado kid, like Bakersfield, California, but then went to the Air Force Academy here, was on the ski team. They met in Florida when he was stationed there, probably flying the F4 still at that point.
that's so cool.
And he left a note on my mom's car that she never saw. So then his follow-up was like, hey, I left you a note. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And so and I'm kind of misremembering a little bit, but she was this was back when all of our parents used to like when dating was a little more casual.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might go on a date and it wasn't quite as
Less
like
pressure.
today it's like kind of both directions. Like no one wants to label anything and people take their pants off right away.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like both hand.
Mhm.
This was back when it was like a little more like politics even. Politics now are like super skewed. There's a huge division between, whereas like Republicans and Democrats used to overlap on a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agreement.
Yeah.
I was back with this is back with then. So like you could date somebody, whatever, no kiss, just we're dating. And then I might go on a date with this guy this weekend, whatever. And I'm not a floozy. I'm just, this is what we do.
Mhm.
So it was that time, and my dad showed up, and I think she was getting ready to go on a date with somebody else or something. He just kind of showed up, cold called. I don't even know how it all went down, but he won her over, and yeah, they got married, and then he was stationed in Leuchars Air Force Base, Scotland. So that's where I grew up the first 2 years of my life.
Mm.
I was a Scot, and
That's
I've obviously got
so badass
Yeah.
because you look like a Scot.
I've obviously got some
Yeah.
Ireland, some Scotland in me. So I came to the United States with a Scottish accent
Really?
because I had a Scottish nanny.
Oh.
I was always wondering, not to like, I don't know, not to make you feel like weird or anything like that, but I've always wondered where your accent comes from.
People
'Cause
say that.
You've spoken several times, at our church that we all go to. And every time I'm just like, that's not a Colorado accent though. Like there's some words like that you have the emphasis on, but there's other words I'm like, no one says it like that. Where's this dude from?
It's got to be a blend of North Carolina,
Yeah.
which is a little different. It's not quite Georgia or Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has to be that I learned to speak
Yeah.
in
Scottish
Scotland, wearing sweaters and
That's
watching
so
trains
awesome.
and.
That's so badass.
That's funny.
But it's a Scottish accent is one of the hardest ones for me to. Scotland and Ireland, because Ireland has that lilt to it
Mhm.
where it like goes up
Mhm.
and down, and Scottish doesn't do that at all.
Just yell.
But it's like so they're really beautiful when you can like nail them, and I can't
Hmm.
I can't do either of them really
Even
well.
though it used to be your like native.
I know.
I could
accent.
never do a lot of accents for like when we played Dungeons and Dragons. I could never figure out how to do an Irish or Scottish accent. And then I just always quote Shrek to myself a little bit. And then I
Okay.
like just get into it pretty easy. Like as soon as you're just doing Shrek lines, like you can easily slide into it.
I don't think I could. I would need to hear
Yeah. Hey,
Hear
that
the
like
Shrek
brogue
voice.
in my ear,
Yeah.
and then I would know.
Oh yeah, man.
So
So what did it look like? Your mom, did she ever remarry?
she didn't.
She
She
didn't.
really wanted to.
Yeah.
She
Mm.
never found a man of equal or
Hmm.
greater caliber.
but it wasn't like a refusal to do so. Like
Not
to
at all.
marry. That's
Not at all.
that just
She
means your mom knows her worth, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think my wife and I joke about this all the time. My wife wants to put it in our will that when or if she dies, I can't get remarried for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, babe, that's a long time. And she's like, that is not a long time at all. Because she knows that if something happened, I would just fall prey to the first person the first woman who cooked anything for me. I'd be like, what are you doing?
Quickest way to the heart, to the stomach.
Yeah, it's cooks over looks. And so, and books over looks.
Yeah.
I don't know which one cooks over, probably cooks,
I think it's cooks for me.
then books, then looks. Because I tell the guys in my small group all the time, I'm like, look, everything becomes common. Everything becomes common. Pappies, it's common.
Yeah.
Cherry pie, you love cherry pie, eat it every day. Common.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know it's hard to believe, but
those poor
beauty
little-
is fleeting.
Yeah.
But cooks win.
Oh yeah.
And books make you smart. Then you don't have to be married to a dummy. They don't believe me though. I'm like, if you can find all three, you're one of those, you're lucky. But if you find a woman who's not strikingly beautiful right out of the gate, but she has character, it will shine through. That's why arranged marriages can work. And there's no other option. But what was the question, guys?
I was asking. So what did it look like? So your mom never got remarried.
Yeah.
So were there other guys ever in the picture, like serious dating or guys, or was it so that age from 6, kind of to 18, which is a long time. But in that time frame,
2 guys.
So there was, and were they, so 2 guys, and were they father figures to you, or were you kind of like, I don't really care who you are,
That's a great question. My mom drilled in with me and probably with my brother and my sister, but I can remember more from that period than my brother and my sister can. But that, so I have a couple cool stories. One in particular I'll just mention in regards to this. But there were 2 guys. They were never like a father figure, because she was just careful with that. But there was one guy named Danny that she dated for a while. I know, that is weird. Maybe that's when I dropped it. And she liked him, and he was cool, but he struggled. This is an indicator of how decisive my mom is. He struggled. He would show up to take her on a date, and he'd be like, what do you want to do? And that drove her crazy. She was like, have a plan. Have a plan. And that was it. It was a few of those, and it was like, you're not the guy. Another guy, I think he was a little wealthier. I think he lived in Virginia. He would fly down in a helicopter. This is back. But he just wasn't handsome. That was what she said. She's like, I just don't want to kiss him. She was like, I just don't want to kiss him. I remember she told us that. I just don't want to kiss him. And I was like, okay, so that's important.
Yeah.
But when I was
girls want to kiss me, but that's what I would be thinking if I was you at that age.
When I was little, it killed me. I had to teach myself how to throw a football in the backyard by just chucking it out the shed and then going and picking it up and trying to figure out how to throw a spiral. Went to the batting cages, just learned how to hit, and would ride my bike there. I had a job when I was 10. Is that right? 11. Ride on base and mow lawns all day. Told him I was 12. So I always I felt that space of wanting to be apprenticed, wanting to know that you can do, and I felt like I needed to be, in a really crazy way, feel like I needed to be the man in the house or something. But when I was really little, there was a father-son camping trip at my church that obviously I didn't have an in for that. And I went to my mom and I was upset. I was like, I just want to go. And she was like, you have a Heavenly Father and you can ask him. And I just went into my room, and I just, as a little kid, knew the Daniel story, that when Daniel prayed, he knelt by his window. And I was probably 8 years old. And I knelt by my window and just bent my head down and prayed about it. I have no idea what I prayed, but just prayed a simple little boy prayer about what I wanted. And as I'm lifting my head up, I see my friend in his dad's car, the same house that I was at when I learned the news that my dad had passed. And they pull into the driveway. And I just sit there at my window watching this kind of, my window's right at the front porch. So it's like I have a front row seat. And a guy named Mr. DiCarlo, bless his heart to this day. But he came to the front door and was like, we were going to go, and just thought Greg might want to come.
Heck yeah, dude. And
so I remember and I have moments like that where the Lord, because he's merciful and good and is a father, among other things, met me in ways that really sealed the deal for me to go, there's a God. He is alive. He's not just a God who sends rain on the righteous and the wicked, but he is a God who draws near to the lowly. More are the children of the desolate woman than of her who has a husband. One of the passages of scripture that my mom clung to as she would claim things over our lives. So that moment, I was like, the Lord hears me. Reading my dad's Bible was a huge thing because it was underlined everywhere. And
that's sick.
it was, and it still is. It was underlined and highlighted. And whenever I would come across one of those, it was almost like like this resonated, or this spoke to my dad, or this had impact. Why?
Yeah.
And so like leaning in, and as a little boy, like studying. So I read I consumed the Old Testament as a little kid, even though it didn't make any sense. I was just looking for these clues, or like almost like this treasure map to like who was my dad.
Yeah.
And it was as an older man that I finally came across a sermon that he gave just 10 years ago.
Really?
Somebody sent me a recording of a sermon
Whoa.
Wow.
that he gave where he uses a plane as an analogy for. It's awesome.
What
Getting to hear his voice, like in this.
Yeah. What a gift, because it's not common.
No.
And
Especially from
no,
the
it came-
19.
It came off a tape,
Yeah.
or something. That's incredible. And you still have that Bible today, or?
I do.
Yeah. I wonder, do you revisit it and have some of those things revealed themselves more to you as a grown man who's going through his own life struggles? And does your own context of being a guy finding his way in this world, do you read those underlines from your dad now and have any insight into more of like, has there been anything where you're like, oh, I could see what he was leaning on in this, or what he was, do you connect to it differently? And is there anything that you've seen in that?
I haven't studied it in a while. It's been a long time. Probably since senior year of high school would have been one of the last times like I was reading that as like the one that like when I'm home, opening a Bible, reading it. In college, my roommate had a Bible. Later in college, he had a Bible it was a really great cross-reference Bible, which I'd never seen one of those. So I was like, wait, every single verse is somehow connected to like 6 other verses?
Yeah.
And I just stole his Bible. And that is the Bible on Sunday. When I stand up on Sunday, you will literally see that is the Bible.
Bro,
I think it was Bo. I think it was Bo Odom, or what was the other guy's name? Oh, come on. I think I might have mentioned it. Like, hey man, I've been using this.
I love your Bible.
Something like that.
Can't
And maybe
have it
he's like, oh, good. Or like, oh, keep it. Or like, maybe he's like, oh, use it.
Mm-hmm.
Any one of the, oh, good. Anything from like good to like a keep it.
Something
that could have been said.
Yeah. You took it as
And I just took it as a full blown, because Bibles, it's like, it almost feels like you can't steal a Bible.
right. But
Doesn't it kind of feel like
most stolen book in the world?
What?
Yeah, no, the Bible is the most stolen book in the world.
But is that but Gideon's, that doesn't count though if you take a Gideon Bible.
I don't think
Come
that
from a
counts.
hotel.
No, I'm talking like books stolen out of like bookstores and stuff like that.
What?
Yeah.
Because I wonder if there's
I
something
mean, I knew
about like,
most purchased,
'cause it's-
most printed. I knew those.
because at the same time, like,
Still.
can you deny somebody stealing your Bible? Like Jean Valjean and the
Gosh.
candlesticks with the priest, like you're like, I take it.
My study Bible right now, I would be like, hey,
Please don't.
I really need that.
Yeah.
There's like 20 years of my brain.
Wrapped in there.
But I'd be like, Lord, you can, but like, please let me have it back.
I wonder, like you were saying, you reflected on your sons being kind of the ages that your siblings were. Like, if you were to study that again, just what it looks like as in where you're at in life now, just like the hard things, like as a man, like kind of the suffer and silence that men go through, and like the weight of the world that we do kind of carry on our shoulders when no one's around, and like the trying to figure out how am I going to get that that place for my kids, or what's the bank account's not working out this way, or this thing didn't line up, and my marriage isn't right today, and I have so much to do, and people are depending on me, like that weight that can sit on you as a man. Like, I don't know, I want to see what your dad highlighted, in his life and those things. That's such a cool gift to have that.
It's cool. I've always, my life was marked by like, it was pretty easy to rise early and take and prioritize space with the Lord in the morning. And of late, that being since my middle guy was born, it's been much more difficult. And but what's really cool is when I am sitting early in the Word, that's one of my sweetest memories as a little boy. Is I would wake up in the middle of the night. What felt like the middle of the night to me, it was probably 4 or 5 a.m., maybe even 6 a.m. because it still felt dark out. And my dad would be in his blue bathrobe on our couch out in the living room with the light on, just reading the Bible. And I would go sit on his lap and then fall asleep on his lap. And that picture to me is a picture of the Father, God the Father. And so I now get to have moments like that. Like I will be awake, maybe 6:05. This happened just about a week ago because I'm prepping for something actually that we might get into a little bit here. But and I'm just reading, and my son comes out and grabs his storybook Bible and just pulls up a chair next to me at the table, just opens it. And he can't read it yet.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of like mirroring, which I've realized so much about watching little boys just mirror me. And just really, there's a poem. One line of the poem talks about how every bush is burning. Instead of just like a burning bush with Moses, it's something like how every bush is burning, but sometimes we just aren't paying attention. Talking about how kind of God pervades everything. And those are the moments where I think as a dad, you're like, oh, like is my Devo time or my quiet time, is it being interrupted right now? Or is this like a much, 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 much holier invitation? And then of course, if that's a holy invitation, then you can begin to back it off of that as a dad and realize that like hustling your 2-year-old down the steps to get in the car so you're not late for drop off, so you go make a 9:15 meeting, slowing down your pace, because even pace sometimes communicates violence. Like if you're rushing a kid along, it communicates at least at the lowest level aggression.
Yeah.
But when you move at the pace of a toddler, it's just like wonder. But if your inner landscape is still so wound up tight with all the stuff that's coming that day or whatever, you miss this like moment that in these years for us when we have little boys or little children, when the days are long but the years are short, you miss these holy moments. And anyway, moments like that where my son comes out and does the same thing with me now, and it's really, really cool.
I have a couple memories of my grandfather, like same thing, like the sun's not up yet, but he's in his robe, his Bible out. It's always stuck in my, not just in my mind and memory, but in my my soul's DNA. It's just like a core memory of
just imprints.
Watching
it imprints on you. It goes, this is, as a little boy, you don't know you're doing this, but you go, what you see your dad do and what you see your grandpa do, whether you even like him or not, you go, this is what a man is. And so you just go, if you're angry and you slam the kitchen door and you march around the house, that's what you do when you're angry. That's what a man does. And if it's just, I've just realized like everything more is caught than taught. And it's just, that's fatherhood, is who you are all the time. Who you really are is who they're watching, and it's what they're just defining their little life unto. And it's cool when you have moments, and the Lord can redeem things and can fill gaps in beautiful ways. You have lots of places in Scripture where you have men come out of a non-good father spot and they become father of many. But that's not my story, and that's not my son's story. And so Anyway, they're like imprinting. They're like watching, like, what does dad do when he's frustrated, stressed, happy, excited? It's all like, because children are amazing observers and poor interpreters.
Right. So they can't read the nuance of it.
They see and watch everything.
Yeah.
But they cannot understand. So it just imprints. Which is a whole different level of scrutiny when you're
trying to be a dad,
be a husband, be a dad, be an employee. But one of my mentors told me, he goes, no man can reach his full potential in 3 things. He goes, that's why you never see people who play pro sports in 3 sports. He goes, every once in a while you see like a prime time 2 sport. Was it Bo Jackson? I think Bo Jackson.
Michael Jordan, baseball, basketball.
But
kinda, yeah.
Like a guy who actually, it was Bo Jackson.
Frank Thomas. Football, baseball.
He played baseball and basketball in Looney Tunes, Space Jam.
Yeah.
So it counts in my eyes.
But maybe not a great, who knows? I have nothing to say about Michael Jordan. I don't know if he's a good dad or a good husband, but he goes, you can't be a A+ dad, A+ husband, and an A+ employee or employer. He goes, you just can't. He goes, you got to choose. And he goes, and what's crazy is when men are having children and their children are at that age when they need them, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, on and up. He goes, your potential for impact in your sphere is also on the exact same trajectory. He goes, so when your children need you the most, as that curve slips up out of like, mom is nurturing and keeping this child alive and all this kind of stuff. But then, around 8 months, you start tickling them. They start giggling. You're like, oh, whoa, we got something going on here. He just goes, watch your career. Watch the invitations that come. He goes, because you cannot be an A+ dad, an A+ husband, and a A+ employee or employer. And I have found that to be totally true. You have to choose to get a C somewhere. And a C is still pretty great.
Yeah.
Still great.
It's just...
Especially
if you know you're doing it. It's like, if you think you're getting an A in the class of like being a husband and really like in counseling, your wife's like, this is a C-.
Yeah.
This is a C-.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
If in a season of starting a new job and you've talked about it as a family and you have to grind there and you're trying to be present, but you're dropping the ball and you go, and she goes, God, this sucks. And you go, I know. Like that's a different. And that's a season, but those are where habits start, and those are hard to break as well. Anyway, nothing's ever perfect, but that was super helpful for me to learn restraint. Like, where do you just go like, it's only a dumb man who goes, I can do it all. A wise man is like, here's an example. If you wanted to be a man who observes Sabbath, you want to be a man who rests. You want to be you want to be a man who paces himself, and you want your family to know what it is to have just quiet, where you have original thought and you do things. It's not scheduled. It wasn't planned. It's just, this is a day, something like that. You will not be able to mow your lawn, fix the soffit that has bats living in it, keep your business going, coach your kids' soccer team, have a date night every 2 weeks, tithe, manage your budget, paint, get anything on your honey-do list done, and just keep going. Like, change your own oil, do your brakes. Oh, it's a drum brake, it's easy. Blah, 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 on and on and on. You go, nope. At some point you go, I need help to do things that are less important to me than rest. And only a dummy is like, I can do it all. And a wise man just goes, we're going to go out to eat on these nights because, babe, I see you're tired. And this kid in my neighborhood is going to mow my lawn. And Midas is going to do my brakes, even though I could do it. It's like, and you begin to, and I learned, just over time, you just begin to go like, oh, knowing when to say enough and knowing when enough is actually wisdom. It's not weakness. But when I have a shallow understanding of masculinity or manhood, and I want to be well-rounded in everything instead of sharp in a few things. Like, how good is a well-rounded knife?
can core an
What even
apple
is
with
that?
it and that's
What
it.
even?
I
What
don't
even
know.
is a well-rounded
Yeah,
knife?
it's a spoon.
It's like a blown-out ninja star.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah. You can eat soup with it. Nobody cares about
It's
that.
like a sanding stick. It's
Yeah.
like a sanding rod.
I think it's yeah.
Used to make other things sharp.
I think so. And so I think what's better is to be a
Mm.
sharp leader who surrounds himself with sharp people in different directions
Yeah.
and build a team. And so I go, and it took me eating a little bit of humble pie to get there because I want to be able to do it all. I still want to be able to do it all. So somebody goes, you do an addition on your home, which we're doing right now. Did you guys do that? And you're like, we hired that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hired somebody, a professional to do that.
Yeah.
They roughed it in 5 days. This would have been a Noah project for me.
Yeah. I went by
100
there.
years.
Yeah.
I went by there the other day and I was like, I need the number for these guys if I ever need to do this. It was very impressive. I mean, because it's one of like, growing up, we did a lot of like homework too. Just like, 3, 4, 6 month, 1 year projects, and then
Which is awesome.
which is awesome when you learn how to do stuff. And you should do that stuff with your boys, but like that saved you so many weekends, saved you so much, in other areas of your life, and cost money, but saved you in all those places. And
Yeah.
I think that's such a good word, because I feel like I'm like, even personally, like I'm in the thick of that, or in the front end of it right now, where I get to decide how I, like you were saying, humble myself, or decide I can do everything, and probably fall on my face a little,
Before I'm actually gonna pump brakes pretty quick here.
Yeah.
Because there is something that you were, I think, speaking a lot to right now that is, I think, really important, at least from my own kind of experience growing up. You've mentioned your grandfather, and then there's wisdom you've learned over the course of your life. And it's wisdom that I think is good for me even to hear. Like, it's this idea of not being perfect and everything. Like, that's great, man. I'm not a dad yet, so I feel like I can be a pretty good husband and pretty good employee. You know what I mean? I think about my grandfather. He still gets up, wears the same kind of like shag blue carpet robe to read his word in the morning. And I think about how that man's not actually my blood grandfather. He's technically my grandfather-in-law. And he's really, I think, the man I have to credit my, walk with the Lord to, like, getting kicked off with growing up, and really was the most present father figure in my life, even though it wasn't always there. And there was a lot of other phenomenal men of God who stepped in to be a voice of wisdom and help steer me along, because they knew I was without a paddle upstream and the rudder was broke. And it really resonates with me, this idea of like not knowing how to throw the football, not knowing how to pitch, not knowing how to catch, not knowing how to fix a car, stuff like that. All things that I learned on my own, or other men stepped into my life humbly, not, hey, dipshit, I'm gonna teach you how to throw a football so you don't look like an idiot, but like, came in with such a humble, loving attitude. And men who had no obligation to do so. Right. And I want to give you a moment to kind of discuss that before we kind of get into a spin around of, your experience as a dad. I want to give you a moment to think about and kind of think through, like, who are these men, even if it was a short season, that came into your life and were able to be, again, even if it's just a brief moment of time where they gave you that wisdom that you look back on and, you think like, wow, like that dude, maybe for a day or a season of 3 months, a year, a couple of years, he filled that role. He stepped into that role to see a kid struggling and give him wisdom. Because at my wedding, I identified those guys and I told them to stand up, and I told them, like, there's no, like, usually is when the groom's father gives the speech, because there is no father here. I'm giving a speech to kind of commemorate and thank you guys for taking
awesome.
me in.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate to have one of those guys on the podcast recently. And even though he's only been in my life for a few years, still very thankful for him. And I kind of would feel like I can actually get you for a moment and lock you down and be like, dude, who are those guys? Because you know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah.
That's the whole, that's really an acute observation. because you lived it. But my friend's dad, for a season, he would take us to chop firewood, and he was stern with his kids. You had to say yes, sir, no, sir. And if you couldn't say what, if he was like, you didn't hear him, you would say, sir. So I remember that's imprinted and ingrained. Like, that's how you talk. A, that's how you talk to a man that's older than you. And B, when you're older, that's how people talk to you. So you'll, at different times, you might hear me say that. And that was Craig DiCarlo. And there was a military guy that reached out to my mom. And he maybe a few times took my brother and I to go like just do work for like a whole day after a Sunday. And it was so much fun. Like, we were sweaty and filthy. And then me and my brother went to McDonald's with him, and he's probably an enlisted guy. I don't even remember his name. And he was like, yeah, whatever, after you work hard, like you got to eat. And so like I remember he ate two Big Mac meals.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And drank the hugest Coke I've ever seen in my life. And so I got the double cheeseburger meal because it was like a smaller reality of that larger reality. And that was so much fun. And then a guy named JD Hobgood taught me to shoot, taught me how to take care of a gun, handle a gun, gave me a love for waterfowl hunting. I was so stern with his dogs. I almost saw him kill a dog because he was so mad at it. And but his dogs were obedient. And he was probably too hard on his kids.
Yeah.
Because if you too much discipline and you can raise a rebel, and not enough discipline and you'll raise a brat. You got to find that balance there. And he was a good man and a hard man, but for me it was just the right balance because he wasn't my dad. He was just a mentor for a moment when I would go shoot ducks with him on the Pamlico as a little kid. So I'd go to duck camp as a little boy, and he's sleeping on a cot. The guys are waking me up at 3 a.m. Couldn't be more excited. I'm putting on a raincoat and rain galoshes and just all the wrong gear, loading ducks and gear and decoys and dogs. And the guy hands me a cup. I'll never forget this. It was like the grossest thing, and it was so awesome to me. Guy hands me a styrofoam cup with just, terrible black coffee, Maxwell or something, and just toast. There was no butter on it, no nothing, no jelly. And you just crunching it and just drinking the hottest, worst coffee ever. Yeah. And then motoring across the Pamlico, putting out big strings and shooting birds. And his dog was so well trained that when it got in the boat, the dog would wait to shake until he told it was okay.
Wow.
Which I have seen. That is a hard thing to train a dog.
Yeah, that is serious.
But
since
I've been working with labs, it's like I've seen people working with labs, and I've trained one lab. That's what I should say. And who's rusty, so don't come to my house now and look at my dog and think about. But and like all along the way, like so I have I had a guy show up at my high school, a young life leader who was a close friend of mine to this day, who was probably more like an uncle, but just a strong uncle. Like taught me that, my mom taught me everything I know about Jesus, but he showed me what it looked like to like live that out in freedom. So, he's a wonderful dude. And then I think you go to college and you begin like realizing, when you don't have a dad, I think you're better at borrowing and copy and pasting from other people, which I think is really necessary. And I think guys who do have dads feel like it's like maybe wrong to copy and paste. So like you might see like, because I remember I was at the YMCA as a little kid one time. My mom is just standing in line. And I'm standing the way that she's standing. However she was standing. Maybe she's just standing with her feet together because ladies do that.
Yeah.
And men usually don't stand. This is just a general statement. Yeah. They just don't stand with their ankle bones
together
touching.
Yeah.
And so I look across the room and I see this guy standing, and you could have rolled a basketball between his feet. And I just looked at my mom. I'm a little kid. And I look at him and I'm like, oh, there's. And then when you work with dogs, male dogs don't learn how to pee by lifting up a leg until they see it done. You can have a male dog. He'll be squatting all over your yard until he sees another dog and he's like, what? We can do that? And so I think that's a really silly example, though.
No, that's a great example, though, I think.
But I just watched a guy on a date with his wife, and he pulled the chair back for her, but no one else in the restaurant did that. But I like that. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I think when you're hungry for it, you find it. And when you have it, a good dad, you don't know to look for it. And I think that's part of one of the things the Lord showed me as I've grown up is there is not only deficit in my story. My heart for young men in my career is born out of what I didn't have. I want you to have, but also what I did have. Mentors who met me and crossed paths with me and intersected my life, and for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 had a profound impact on the trajectory of my life. I'm going to do that. So it's like that is that thing that when you're hungry, you find food. Yeah. And when you're, kind of well fed, sometimes you're unnecessarily picky.
Yeah.
I get that. And I think too, like, maybe you can relate to this, but like it came very easy for me to like not necessarily be cynical, but just criticize watching other dads and not like feel like necessarily guilty about just be like, I don't think I'd do it that way. Or like I'd reference like other guys I've seen like that. Did they, talk to their wife that way, discipline their kids that way? And it is a lot of like a take it or leave it kind of thing of like, never do I feel like I ever made the passing judgment like, you're a bad dad. But many times I saw dads and the way they interact with their kids in the home and stuff like that. Or like out, you see the family next to yours camping and the way that dad's behaving. And a lot of that I did think of like, I did like that. I like how he did that. I like how he's talking to his kid, teaching him how to put up the tent. But then there's also like I wouldn't talk to my kid that way. I don't think that's the way a father should talk to a kid. And like, I don't know if everyone else does that, but I do know for like me, like it was a lot of observing and just like comparison of like dads. And like I don't want anyone to ever think who listens to this, like there's a lot of dads who probably listen to this who know me and know that I've been around them or something. I don't want them to ever think I'm just like, man, you're a shitty dad, dude. Like you suck. It really is kind of like I have no guilt because I don't feel like I'm seeing someone to be like, wow, I wish my dad did that. It's not like, oh, I wish my dad measured up to that guy's dad. It's just kind of like I think that was really good. I think that was really professional or very patient or very kind, very manly. I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with it. I don't know what you were talking about. Just reminded me of the way I kind of evaluate other fathers when I'm observing them.
Yeah, because it's funny because I'm sitting on over here being like, I don't know if I've seen like a dad totally go off the handle. I mean, like I'm not going to do that, but like for the most part, it's just like I kind of have one pillar that I base around, and I think that's probably accurate. And that's interesting. So there was 15, 16, 17-year-old Red reading the Old Testament
and smoking Marlboro Reds.
I was about to say,
brother.
On the nature trails, playing Truth or Dare.
Getting into the Bible, right?
Oh my gosh, it was such a mess, dude.
For guys who can relate to this story,
you have to add the rest of. I set a van on fire in the woods.
Tell us about that. How did not having what else manifested in your life as you're probably in light of not having maybe that.
What's the crazy shit you did because you didn't have a dad?
Yeah,
I didn't grieve. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I didn't grieve because I was only 6 years old. But the amount of sadness that would come up, and I look at my son sometimes now, and I'm like, how would he even reckon? Because when you're the oldest, which I am, there is something there. There is something there that you carry as the oldest, which is, I don't know what it is exactly. I'm not sure if it's just, if it's a nurture nature thing, if it's a spiritual thing. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's probably some kind of cool blend of all of it. But my mom's crying, my brother's crying. When I came home that morning, I can hear my mom sobbing from the back of the house. All the lights are off. My house is full of people wearing dark colors. I had no idea what happened. My brother is 4. He's crying. My sister's a baby. My mom is sobbing. She tells me what happened. She says, do you understand? I say, yes, but I don't. Like, you can't understand the finality of death and war when you're 6 years old. And I just would try and bite down the tears and would try and hold back those strong feelings when they would come up, because they were so hot and overwhelming, like drowning. Like the grief was so palpable and powerful. It was painful to even like let it go. And so I would fight it back. And so I became a kid who had quite an anger problem. And this manifests in middle school. I was kicked out of my middle school as a 5th grader. I had terrible obscene language, vulgar language, and I was selling cigarettes as a 5th grader at my middle school, because in North Carolina you go to middle school in the 5th grade. So I was selling like stolen packs of Marlboro Reds and Newport Menthols, and I was just a hellion. But I knew, because I was the oldest, that I could. So at home I was dialed. And loved still going to church and reading my Bible, and but it was like I had to vent or something, and I would get in fights and all this stuff. And I went to a private school for 2 years, 6th and 7th grade, and it was terrible fights. And so I asked my mom to let me go back to public school, and she's told me I needed to go pray about it. So I was reading my Bible as a rising 7th grader, rising to 8th grade over that summer. And I must have been reading something in like the Exodus story, because it's basically like talking about you're going to return to your land. And I was like, what? And that was the first time the words had ever jumped off the page at me, where I had the experience where it's like, whoa, it felt like the Bible almost goes into like a magic eye mode. And this passage like comes off and everything else kind of like blurs back. And I ran downstairs and showed it to my mom. And she took me at my word and was just like, okay, and drove me back to my public middle school, which was a real show. Yeah. And she signed me up, went back to public school, promptly punched a kid right out of the gate just to reestablish, just terrible. And all pushing boundaries and playing truth or dare and just all kinds of terrible stuff. And what really was is just anger, because I'm, I think on the Enneagram, I'm probably an 8.
Oh no, don't say that.
Okay.
My wife listens to this.
I don't know what that means.
No, she says I'm an 8, and I say I don't believe in the Enneagram. So,
oh man,
that's a very 8 thing.
That's
a shitty thing to say.
I think the Enneagram's fun. We went to that. My wife and I went to a marriage counseling thing that our church put on one time a while back. That was such a hoot.
Yeah,
that was the first time I was exposed to it. And I was like, this is great. It's just another level of like language, another layer. But if we were to talk about it for a second,
no, talk about it as much as you
primary
want.
emotion. Yeah. If you're a 1 or 9 or an 8 on the Enneagram is anger, and 8s externalize their anger, and that is me. A primary emotion for me is anger. A go-to is anger. And I was not an angry person, but I was like I tried to punch my orthodontist, because he goes, we have to pull 8 teeth or whatever. And that made me so scared that then what roars up out of me is anger. And I go crawling across the table to try and deck my doctor in the head for trying to keep me from looking like a snagglemouth monster. So I start realizing I got a problem. I'm like trying to self-diagnose as a 9th grader or whatever. And I just go down to my dad's office one day, which my mom had left pretty much the same. And on a little shelf, there was a picture of him. That was one of my favorite pictures of him to look at, but I would never look at it. And for like a whole year, I kept that. I basically kept that in my room, but kind of hidden. And I would look at it at night, every single night for a whole year. And I'd remember, and I would sob. And I have no idea when I fell asleep. And I would wake up in the morning. And that is something I think the Holy Spirit led me into to help me process the weight of that loss. And after about a year of that, I was not an angry kid anymore. And now I'm a huge believer in crying whenever you want to. whenever, like if you catch me, if you ever see me in church and I'm sitting down, not standing up when everyone else is singing, I am almost definitely doing some kind of inner journey with the Lord around something that could have nothing or everything to do it with just, and I'm crying. You look at the floor underneath me and there's a huge nasty snot pile. There's tears there. And because I have a beard, you can't tell as much when a guy who has a beard is crying. Especially the longer it is, the more you're like, I think he just looks bad today. But I'm a huge believer in that. My pastor used to say, if your eyes leak, then your head won't swell. And it's an old man saying, but I like it. Anyway.
No, that's
really
beautiful.
good.
Around,
I know how you'll probably react to this, but I commend you for doing that, man, because I buried it so deep. I didn't lose a father, so I didn't have that grief in the same way. But when I became a believer, I really struggled with crying, and I was, man, dude, I was like, I could not cry for years. Like, just I would want to, and I just couldn't do it because for so long I had that same mentality of just dig it down, be the man of the family kind of thing, be strong or whatever. And I think my recovery, I'm not comparing my recovery to yours, because again, like I said, I think the grief is a different, kind of grief, but I get that. And like, it was really hard to kind of confront those things. And dude, I can't imagine I can't imagine making yourself confront it. And that's hard.
And I obviously didn't know I was even doing that. Like, I didn't know I was doing that. I just think I was led down there one night and I grabbed it and I just didn't fight it that time.
What's the picture? Can I ask?
It's a picture of him in his flight suit holding his helmet. It's a classic hero shot is what my brother would call it.
It's like the Tom Cruise shot.
It is a lot like that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It is a lot like that, actually.
That is an awesome picture.
It is. It's an awesome, but it's really close up on it's really close up on his face. Not like, oh, look at what it's like really close on his face.
Yeah.
And he, I let myself remember, I only have a few memories. Other ones that I think are memories are probably just stories that have been told. And because I'm a great storyteller, I can barely ever tell the difference between like story and my wife's always like, that didn't even happen. I'm like, babe, my wife is a scientist. She's a scientist.
That's how it
so
happened
I'm like,
to me in my heart.
what I tell her is I'm like, babe, when you're telling a story, the reason people tell stories is so that the listener can experience something that was similar to what it was like when it happened to you. And that is different than relating the details as they occurred. Exactly. The story is meant to like sweep you off your feet and carry you along into the way it felt.
Yeah.
Which is why it's why our Bible even opens the way it does. It's like, it's a poem. It's a creation poem. It's not a scientific document. It's not meant to be analyzed as if it were like, a theorem.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got day and night, way before there's a sun. You got all kinds of difficult stuff. It's a poem.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's meant to like give us a feel. We're experiencing something that helps us to feel what it must have been like during that process. Not how did hydrogen first bond with oxygen? You can go there, but you can't go there with the text.
I have a theory that some of the best storytellers that I've encountered, a lot of them didn't have a present father in their lives. And I have a theory that like, because you're young and you got to start being the storyteller.
Oh yeah.
Like, you become a good storyteller. Because my wife and my friends would characterize me as the storyteller. Okay. I think too, And so like, I don't know if you can't back that up with anything scientific.
It's
right?
not absolutism, but it's probably holds true even to like, just even the way you guys are describing, like pulling things from the fathers around you see and stuff, but just like, you kind of got to be a resourceful, scrappy guy to able to bring it, like, to bring in and harness these things. And so as you get married, move to Boulder, Colorado. You want to be a dad. You move here. You want to be a dad.
To this city that you guys have never named.
Yeah. We name like the biggest breweries here, but if you listen, you know. It's just, you just can't break the rules.
I don't know. Yeah. Does
But
the city have a nickname?
No, but the
Florence?
yeah. And so we, but you come here, you want to be a dad. I meet you. You want to be a dad. And I get to know you. And I had a dream once. And I'm always leery to put like big power behind it, to say this was a dream given by God. And I'm not gonna, that's not what I'm saying right here, but it was, at least at the very least, it was how I saw you and what you would become. And maybe it was more special than that, but anyways, just short little dream. And maybe I've wrecked the punchline now of the dream anyways, but so here's the deal. I was dreaming, and I'm, there's just this like very fatherly embrace around me. And it's just like, it moves out, and it's you. And I don't see you as my dad.
Because your dad's so awesome.
But I do, you did have a hand in mentorship to me, but I didn't take it as like, as you being my dad, but it was this like, this thing was, I was just like, Red is meant to be a father to sons, and he's going to be awesome at it. And to fast forward to a couple years later, you have 3 boys, and I get to watch you, a little bit from afar, father them, and they grow up. And it's funny because you're in it with them every day, but I'm the way I see it is, it's going faster from my perspective.
Totally.
That kind of thing where this kid's 6. I thought he was just born like yesterday, but so I get to see it on this kind of macro or scaled back scale. And so anyways, now you're a dad with 3 boys, and just tell us about what it's like being a dad, and what that what comes to mind when I just say like, you're a dad of these 3 boys, and what do you want to tell me about that?
First of all, I remember that. I have that dream written down in a prayer journal somewhere, because I think you shared that with me at one of our wonderful surf trips.
I just want people to know, I wasn't in the Young Life community, but damn, did I hear about the surf trip? I just envied the surf trip, dude.
You want to go?
Yeah, I just remember thinking, I was like,
First, still wants. Anybody that doesn't go anymore still wants to go. Like, it's like this thing.
Every year I'm a little sad. I'm like, dang, I'm not there.
It's like, spring break trip. I'm going to go nowhere.
Yeah, now it's like spring break, right? It's like, no, you have a job.
I know,
it's like you
so
work,
right.
bro. It's like, no,
so
you have
right.
a job. And so, yeah, surf trip, beautiful time. See, that was right in there in that time, and it's a cool time where we get to know each other very well. And so, I think that's what that spurred from, just knowing how much you wanted to be a dad, and seeing that.
Yeah, my becoming parents for my wife and I was born out of a longer journey than we anticipated. There's this kind of quiet fraternity of parents who had a difficult onboard to becoming parents, and you don't ever know who's in that fraternity until you're in it. And then all of a sudden, members have a way of finding each other and encouraging each other. And, everybody's story is a little different, and some are much more intense and the whole gamut. But so it took us 10 years to get to have kids. And it wasn't 10 years of trying. But when we were like, okay, we're ready, and it's this and that and go time and everything, it just began a process that I had no idea was going to be so full of grief. And so it's several miscarriages and all kinds of stuff in there. And one of them was really significant because of how far along it was and how much you kind of let yourself at each stage, you kind of let yourself go, like, okay. And then to lose a baby at the stage when you're like, this is a baby. Like we all kind of, here's when a heartbeat and here's when there's fingernails, and you're kind of learning all these things early on. And then there's just a point where on an ultrasound, you're just not looking at a really well-formed tadpole. You're looking at like, that's a baby. I can see that little fist. I can see, and the proportions are getting right. So we had a loss. We lost a little girl, late. And, I remember being in the neonatal, the perinatologist office, which is the specialty baby doctor. And I just remember the floor dropping out underneath us when, as he was explaining to us the seriousness of what we could not detect from a really good, what for us felt like a really great ultrasound. You're seeing a little heartbeat flutter. You're seeing, a 2-dimensional profile. We're seeing the side of her body that was properly formed. And so for us, it was like, it was super hard to reckon what we were hearing with what he was saying. And of course, I went to anger and lost my temper and yelled a little bit at him. And I'm really thankful that he responded in kind. And that was helpful because he was not somebody who was trying to throw the towel in and go, oh, this is going to be hard, or this is going to be whatever. Like, he's like, I'm in this. I kind of accused him of whatever. And he just goes, I'm not in this profession. He goes, I'm in this profession to work in the gray. He goes, I excel in the gray. And he goes, and this is not gray. So that was helpful. Stops using medical terms and really begins to explain what's going on. And just went home and just broke again. Came to the door of our house, got to the garage door and just broke. So I think when you, I got, what's that proverb? A hope deferred. So when you have something that you're hopeful for, whether it's marriage or a best friend or a dad or a father figure or a child or something that you're hoping for that's significant, as that gets pushed back and your longing becomes more real, and the waiting period, you just become a person who I think like your perception and your the ground that's being tilled beneath the season of long suffering and long waiting is more fertile than the ground beneath, like, oh, it'd be cool if, like, I think it'd be cool if I met the girl I'm gonna marry, meet her, perfect, fall in love, engagement, marriage, versus like, oh, I didn't meet her till I was like 30. I didn't really meet anybody till I was like 34, 35, 36, 37. Didn't get married till I was 38. There's a lot more space there for you to be thankful and to bear with each other's burdens because you've been waiting. So for my wife and I to have our home filled with the sounds of a baby, all the sounds, crying, giggling, yelling, screaming, like we would have given anything. And now that I'm a little bit removed from it, I can see how that really tills up the ground for just a different kind of experience. So when we have children and we just weren't fussing and frustrated and lamenting the season. There's a season shift when you go from married to then you have young kids. There's a season shift there, and you can find if you haven't been weathered for it, like you're kind of like, there can be some lament there. That's natural. There can be some looking back and be like, this is hard. Remember when? And we didn't have any of that. Yeah. For us, it was just joy on joy, joy upon joy. Like it was like grace upon grace, but it was like joy on joy on joy. Our baby's crying. So awesome.
Yeah.
I'm awake. all the time. Hell yeah. Like, I tell young dads when they're like, I tell them, I'm like, first thing is you need to read this book. It's called On Becoming Baby Wise. You need to read that book early and just notate it with whatever makes sense to your brain so that you can be an expert on the things that you can be an expert on, and let your wife be an expert on the things she can be an expert on. If she's awake, you're awake. If she's awake, you're awake. And that was just my game plan. I just invented that game plan because no one told me what to do. And it was a really good game plan. You know, your wife's hormones are shifting around and stuff. And instead of being like, oh, I got to go to work and whatever. And I just was like, I'm here.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that matters. And her being, so like, oh, you know, this crazy stuff happens. Like she's trying to breastfeed, whatever, the baby throws up on her, like blah, blah, blah. You're over there snoring asleep. You can see how a woman would start to be like, this is hard. But if you got the vibes right, you got a little Gregory Alan Eisenkopf playing on the thing.
Oh my man, dude, you know exactly.
You just went and grabbed a bowl of peanut M&Ms. You got some secret hot chocolate. some chocolate milk because that's your girl's thing at 3 a.m. in the morning, and the baby blows up on her. You're like, no big deal. You wet a rag. It's like warm. You give her that. You take the baby over here. Bingo, bango, clean baby again.
Yeah,
that's the play. And of course, it's not possible. Like my career allows for quite a bit of leeway. But also, you know,
you gotta saddle up.
This is gonna be me talking. I'm just like, firk your career. Like, who freaking cares, man? You got a baby in your house. Like, you're about to reorient everything or not. And if you don't, you're gonna hear about it when your son graduates high school. When your son so reorient now. And so like that was all stuff that I didn't even know I was doing. Like I was just so thrilled to welcome a little one into our home, and so I made some right decisions on accident. And so we just had a blast while the babies learned to latch and breastfeed, and that time when a lot of times we don't know what to do. Like, it's real. Like, it's like hard to like, you're like, hey, and I was like, hey, I have a little bit of understanding of what a healthy sleep balance might look like for our kid, because I read this book. I'm just gonna do it. Mostly it was like music, ambient lighting, snacks, chocolate milk, and all poops. Like all poop cleanup. Like I'm the diaper master. Because like what's happened is with the little baby, you know this, like you are literally changing a diaper from what was just like a pretty explosive wet poop situation, and in the midst of changing that which already happened, it all just happens again. But the thing's open, like the whole carriage is open, and so you're like, no, and like it's like jumping on a grenade. And that's funny if you're both awake, but if your girl's not and her nips are chafed to pieces and she's the only one awake, that's not funny. Like that's like just sad. So then she cries, her hormones kick in, she goes, and it's like, no, I'm with you, I'm right here. This is awesome. This is only awesome. And if the baby's, and then you also learn, if you're awake in those like holy hours in the night. No, I'm giving a bunch of unsolicited counsel, but you learn to soothe really early. Women learn to soothe really early because they are literally doing that. They are soothing. Like they are soothing.
Right.
But you learn your tricks like way early. Like with a 2-week-old, you already know, you and your son or you and your daughter, like before she can even know anything about you, but your smell, which is like what they hit first off. Like she like knows her daddy's smell and like how he moved. Like, you just learn her. And there's nothing like that. So that's been my vibe with my 3 boys. And and I mean, I wanted to say this earlier. Like I've always been drawn to the book of Proverbs because it's the voice of a father to his son. And I so longed for that voice in my life. That I've probably studied the book of Proverbs more than any book in the Bible. I've probably read it in the hundreds of times. And you can just trace all these things that affect men.
Just simple wisdoms.
It's like appetite, it's in there. Restraint, it's in there. Sleep, it's in there. Your voice, your mouth, when it's good to speak and not, it's in there. Discipline, it's in there. Alcohol, adultery, your eyes, money, it's all in there. And so that has shaped a ton of like my understanding of discipline and rhythm and work and appetite is a huge thing for me. Just that that a man knows that he can be satisfied from one place.
Yeah, that's important.
I have a couple questions. I think you've teed on these quite a bit, but now I kind of want to get I want to focus in on it.
We need chips and guacamole. Can you feel that? Can you feel the need for chips and guacamole right now?
I can feel it. I can't feel it. I can't feel it, but I can feel it.
Can you feel that?
I'll be honest, my wife made a banging chicken Caesar salad before I came here, so I'm pretty satisfied.
And I had fajitas. I'm gonna be honest, I had fajitas.
Yeah,
But I probably didn't eat as many as I could have because I'm trying to always exercise restraint. Now I want some guacamole.
Dude, we'll get that. We can get that.
I'm conditioned. I'm just conditioned with
Pacifico brings it out, man.
It does. What was it? Where are you going?
So these two questions essentially is, if you could pick one thing that you enjoy the most about being a father and one thing you enjoy the least about being a father, and it could be anything. It can be surface level stuff, could be deep, however you want to go, but I mean, you're going into what we hear a lot of guys talk about is the part they struggle with the most and the parts they enjoy the most. I kind of want to hear from you, especially for those of us who aren't dads yet. This is what I think I've gained the most wisdom out of this kind of series so far, is hearing dads talk about their favorite part versus their least favorite part and why.
That's a great question. Feels hard to think to come to what's my favorite part. I have these moments that kind of stand out. And then I think probably my least favorite part of being a dad is the way that you realize you've blown it, like live action. You can realize you're blowing it as a husband in the middle of a tiff or an argument or a fight or whatever. But it doesn't feel at least for me, it doesn't feel quite as detrimental. In the moment, you might be I am teetering on being a jackass now. I'm full blown in, and I now need to back off of this. But it just feels more. You just feel it more as a dad. If you lose your temper, and it's hard. So but it's good to feel it. You want to feel it and have a good barometer for whoa, and to apologize to a little person instead of being but to apologize and go, hey, I shouldn't have popped you then, or I shouldn't have raised my voice then. I understand that was an accident. Stuff like that. That's hard because you want to do it. I want to do it right. Yeah. So bad. That cuts kind of deep. My favorite parts are just these crazy moments where you see their connection with you, if that makes sense. My littlest, no, not him, my middle one. My middle one would sometimes, when he was trying to get my attention, because there was a little bit of distraction in our home for the middle one. No distraction in our home for the oldest. Quiet. We have videos of our oldest just laying on the floor as a baby. The house is just quiet. You can hear the baby sounds that he's making. Our littlest, you can't. I mean, it is people are getting disciplined actively just because we're trying to get a quiet video. So people are getting disciplined on the side. But my middle one, I have a memory. He grabbed my face. He goes, "Daddy, look at me. Look." And his nose is literally touching my nose. So we can't even actually look at each other. We're that close. Because he's trying to tell me something. And he's he wants me to when they want that level of crazy connection with you, it is just really cool. And you're I love you. So my littlest, he's at a wonderful age. He's 2. And connecting with him, like tickling him, and him being like, "Daddy, please stop. Daddy, please stop." And then I stop, and then he's like, and then
he kind of leans his belly in a little
he's
because he's like,
"Daddy, I want you to do it
Yeah.
again." Or like when we have a big sheepskin rug, and one time I always pretend to be a bear, and they're always either hunting the bear or fighting the bear, or they become bears. So there's a rival bear family situation happening. But I put our sheepskin rug over me one time. Just one time, I just grabbed it. They saw me. They like literally saw me pick it up, take it in my room. I just threw it over my shoulders, got it down on all fours, and came out growling. And they freaked out. And it was amazing. Or if Sarah becomes a bear, my wife, and then I attack her, and I'm tickling her, and she screams for help. They turn on me.
Oh yeah.
There is a crazy level of violence that comes out of them. Like my oldest son will do this thing where he does a cannonball into my back, but with his
knees first.
Yeah, knees first. Like to like it's like they know this is the most power and density that I can generate
Into one little tiny point of my
and it's
knee.
so crazy. Like my middle one, because the middle ones are scrappy, you know, he'll just come in, just full blown firing, and so it's like that level of play and fun and laughter, but also their deep desire to like connect with me, with their dad, and when they all want to sit on your lap, when all of them want to just sit on your lap, and you're like, we're gonna figure this out, or and when they accomplish things, like when one of them swims across the pool for the first time, and you knew they could, and you have to push them to the edge, which is hard because they're sputtering and they're crying and they feel like you're abandoning them because you're staying just out of reach, but you know they can do it. And they do it, and they do forget about all the sputtering, and they're so excited. Or I was telling my oldest just recently at his soccer game, I was like, "Hey man, when you're dribbling, it doesn't matter who tries to touch the ball. You have to hound the ball through the defenders, like, because he's little." And so I was like, whenever they touch it, you just keep pushing it, kicking it. Just never, like, it's not like, oh, they touched it, it's theirs now. It's like, no, that's your ball. It's going in. And he just went out and did it, and just dribbled through like a whole group of defenders, and then shot it, and it happened to nutmeg a kid. And I was like, and you're just like,
just the pride of a father.
And of course, I'm not that crazy on the sideline. I'm like, hey, well done. Nice job. But I think that, like, getting the connection that they want, watching them come into their own, watching them conquer things. Just before I got here, a few hours ago, we were driving in to the ranch where we're living at right now, north of town, and 2 huge bull snakes are on the road. And I just slam on the brakes and run over with Henry. I kind of ran over one of them on accident, so he was easy to deal with. But then I went and caught the other one out in the brush, and I'm holding it, and it's a big snake, and they're like, "Why are you choking it, Dad?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not choking it. This is how you hold a snake so that it doesn't bite you." So I'm letting them hold it, and all this. Not the one that was fresh. I'm not letting them hold that one.
Yeah.
But just that, like, just watching them explore. You get to, people always say that you get to re-experience the world through the eyes of a child.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Heck yeah, dude.
It's awesome.
It makes me just giggle.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think you kind of already touched on this one, but I'll give you an opportunity to kind of speak to it. Is there anything that, you've done in your experience as a father that it doesn't even have to be like an example of you did it poorly, but just something that you'd want to do again and maybe approach it differently, or, deal with the situation differently or something like that? And you got 3 boys, so I imagine each of them have gotten to something a little different along the way. But I'm just wondering, like, is there anything that you wish you could have done differently or could do again and go at a different approach?
I bet I will have those things. I just feel like I'm such a sophomore in like dadland, that I probably don't even have that perspective yet. Like I'm so fresh in it. You know, I have a 6-year-old, I have a 4-year-old, I have a 2-year-old. So I've done diapers. I did pretty good on diapers. We've done potty training. That went pretty well. We did some, we like probably are in the camp of like kids don't know what they need. So you choose for them what they need. If they say they don't like a food, they have to, if my kids say they don't like something, they have to eat it 20 times. And then they always change their mind. Or like when and how they ought to sleep and stuff like that. We do all that. So I don't think I have enough perspective yet to make
that's totally fair.
To make a good judgment call on that. Yeah, like I'm trying. I mean, Strider bikes are for sure the way to teach your kids how to balance on a bike.
I don't even know what a Strider bike is.
It's a bike without pedals.
Oh, really?
And so if you put training wheels on, they learn when they turn to lean to the outside because that's where momentum throws you. And there's a wheel to catch you, which is not how you ride a motorcycle or a bike or anything. You always lean into a turn, but training wheels just teach you to balance. It's just a little harder to break it. That's all. But on a Strider bike, like I did that and I would 100% do that again.
Okay.
Because you just put them on there's no great joy because they just get on a pedal bike and then ride away from you. Like I ran with my oldest, put him on one of the guys in my small group worked at Shields at the time. So a huge Shields box truck pulls up at my house full of bikes. And he's like, these are all bikes that people just return to Shields. They're all brand new. They told me to get rid of them. He's like a college kid. He drove to my house and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
So I just started, I just pulled an orange Trek out that fit my son. He had never ridden one at all. I just put him on it and I just kind of run with him for a second and he just rides away from me. And I was like, well, there you go.
Wow.
So I believe in Striders.
Yeah, dude.
But what have I done? Like I will have answers for you.
Yeah, that's all right, man.
Because they still listen to me. Think about it. Like I'm still at this phase. Like who is it? John Bass probably has John. Like his kids don't like when they get older and they start like making their own decisions and they're like, wait, I don't have to listen to you. You're like, you do.
Yeah.
But my kids still listen to me. I'm still like a hero in their lives. Like we're still doing pretend. My son, my oldest, I still hold hands with him when we leave the school. And it's so weird that even as a dad, like when I first did that, I questioned. Like I had a weird little bit of me that was like, should I? And it's like such a stupid thing. It's like, yes, I should be holding my son's hand. But that's probably on a whole other like thing.
Oh yeah, that's the cool part about this stage where it's the way the kids look up to you and the way they want to emulate you and be like you and be around you. And like my kid tonight at dinner, we're just eating. He just puts his head on my like shoulder and just goes, "You're a great dad." And it just was like,
don't you forget it.
Yeah, but it's funny too. It's like, we'll see what you think about that when you're 17 or when you're 25. And just in the moment, I was like, what a great way to wrap up my day with, just with my son, just telling me I'm a great dad. And regardless of the truth of that fact, hey, if I'm a great dad to him, then I'm a great dad. How
old is he?
Yeah, he's 3. It was just beautiful. It was just special, and I was like, it warmed my heart. It warmed my heart to have that interaction. So
yeah, I had this is not my phrase, but the kids spell love, Time. And that's, you know that from being a leader. Great leaders, great young life leaders just waste copious amounts of time with kids.
Yeah,
and I have quotes around the word waste,
right?
Until real emerges. And I can always feel it when if I haven't been on my hands and knees wrestling, playing in the yard, on the trampoline, if I've been sitting in the chair, drinking my coffee late into the morning, just wanting to talk with Sarah, if I haven't been playing with them, they need it. But when I'm in it with them at that level, their willingness to obey, they're like, it's just there. When I've been out of town, I have to it's just like, but time is the language that they speak. And that's why if I'm rushed, if I'm hurried, even coming back to that first thing about a man of rest, whether or not you observe like a true, sunset to sunset Sabbath, even just having like, am I going to be a man who's marked by rhythms of rest affects how you're present when you're not doing that. That's what it was always meant to do. It was always meant one day affects all 6.
Yeah.
So rest was always just like nighttime affects the whole day. Your work. So it's just like that's why I think that the Jewish model of how a day starts, that because of that creation narrative, it was evening, it was morning, the first day. So they go, oh, that's a day. Evening is the beginning. So evening to morning, that's the...
You come from a place of rest.
Exactly. They start with a meal together. The sun goes down. They break bread, family time, rest, rise, work. And their rhythm is different. And lots of rhythms are okay. But anyway, that's just like slowing my pace as a dad, always slowing my pace down is a huge... That's something that I want to continue to try and hold the line on and get better at, is like slow down. And you find that with some of our leaders who work with kids with special needs, you must. There's no one's rushing but you, bro. Like,
I have a specific leader in mind too, who I actually went to high school with him and then got to the privilege of seeing him go through kind of like the Young Life stuff up here. And he's younger than me, but he's probably the most like slow, patient guy I know. Like, and like just like has such a aura of peace. But he did the Capernaum stuff. Yeah, and like I could tell like he's just, that's his gift, is like that willingness to wait and be patient. But all right, this one I'm really excited because I know my own thoughts on it too. What traditions have you been able to start with your kids and your family being a dad? And you missed out on some traditions not having a father. What traditions have you started with your family that you love, and what are some that you're looking forward to, like that maybe they're just not the right age yet for, but like you're stoked about? I know Pat here has already got the gear and he's ready to start the duck hunting tradition with his boys, and he's looking forward to that day. And I'm kind of wondering for you, like, what are some that you're just like eagerly anticipating, or some that you've already started and you're stoked about?
That's another great question. Birthday week, dude. It's because I'm a glutton, and so I'm just like, I started it for me, but it's the best thing ever.
Yeah,
the best thing I've ever started is honeymoon every year.
Hell yeah,
that's the best thing I've ever started. That was just,
I'm trying to keep that.
Just putting us all to shame.
I got 1 year down. We did
Nice.
We did our honeymoon again.
So that's a 22-year-old. That's a kid a virgin kid, married, 22 years old. The old school model where you come into your honeymoon as a virgin, you leave it with carnal knowledge.
It's great.
And I came back from that trip and I was like, yeah, so we're gonna do that again.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother.
And my wife was like, I don't know if that's practical or whatever. I'm like, screw practical. Like that was an acronym for awesome.
Yeah.
And so we've done a honeymoon every single year. But then as I think about, and because I believe if you have a strong marriage, you can have strong kids. But if my marriage isn't strong, if my marriage isn't strong, that's the whole structure. Like I don't want to be a great dad, but outside of a strong marriage. So the marriage feels like a really important place to have traditions. And there's been some really cool ones that my wife and I have started just for us to help us. But for my boys, what are some of our traditions? We don't watch a ton of TV. We all get excited about like Friday night movie night. So, and that was something that my mom, I remember being in high school and making excuses. My friends would be like, oh, we're going to go, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And really my family was just going to watch Zorro and we were going to eat some Papa John's, and I just wanted to be there.
Oh yeah.
And so like, it's like little things like that sometimes that just make or break. That's the culture. That's the culture that you're creating. And so, but vacations are we're a big vacation family. We love going on vacations and having having that space to create memories together. Birthday week, like I mentioned, it's just like, hey man, it's your birthday week. Well, you can do whatever you want on your birthday week. And I 100% take advantage of birthday week.
Oh yeah.
No, because I invented it. And like, so no one else does quite the same. I have to remind everybody else. But as they get older, they're going to love that. And that's probably about where we're at right now. Cause I've got a 4-year-old. So he doesn't really, he's like, what?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think if we have any other traditions.
Any that you're looking forward to as that 4-year-old becomes something? My wife will do trips with our boys at an age that she decides that we want to mark as important. And I will do a trip with our boys at an age that we haven't really discussed yet. I'm not sure if it's going to be,
they turn 10 or whatever.
Like, I'm not sure what age it'll be. It might be 12, might be 13, might be 10. We're talking about that.
Like, I love that.
So I will probably, so I don't know when that's going to be exactly. It might even be like the summer after 5th. Like I might do like a small one the summer after 5th grade before they go into 6th grade. And then like there's a couple skills that I've been trying to develop so that when they're older, I can teach them and then do them. It's like backcountry, like management in the backcountry in the wintertime on skis. I would love to duck hunt with my boys, but I have not been overly wowed.
It's not the same here.
Flyway. Our flyway is not.
See, I started here. If I'd started where you started, I'd be much less interested. Much less interested.
So no comment. I have no comment. I agree.
So maybe a North Dakota trip in your future, you know.
Yeah, and I've done one too.
Right. You know.
And I highly suggest not doing a North Dakota duck hunting trip.
Because it will ruin it for everything else.
Or you do one every 2 years and you just don't like, so fly fishing is like that for me now. I used to sneak away to fly fish all the time. And just in my understanding of what it means to be a good dad, you have to retract on your hobbies pretty significantly to be present in what matters. And so I fly fish for 4 days a year, all at one time in the Black Canyon of the Gunnison with a close friend. And it's some of the best fishing in the world. Yeah. And
you go.
I don't have an itch.
Quality over quantity on that.
So when people are like, can you sneak up the Poudre? You want to get on the Thompson? You want to go up to the Miracle Mile? Yes, I want to go to the Miracle Mile. And I do get to sneak up there, but I'm like, I'm good. And so same with surfing, like, like surf trip, which is a work trip for me, scratches that itch. I get to, that's really helpful for me. But I like my boys. So surf trip is one that you've heard about.
Yeah.
That is becoming something that I will stop going on that trip every year that my boys get older. So right now it's about a half and half trip. I go for half of it, and then one of my staff guys finishes it, and I do a spring break trip with my family.
Heck yeah.
But as soon as my boys can swim, we will do that. And I will spend the entire duration of that time with my sons because the surf trip is really simple. It's be with Jesus, be with each other, surf hard, eat burritos, smoke stogies, repeat.
Heck yeah.
It's really a great trip. And if you hate surfing, it is entirely plausible that you would love surf trip.
Yeah. We had guys who stopped surfing. They came for 4 or 5 years in a row.
And never
caught one wave.
Yeah.
So I'll do that with my sons because I've just seen the fruit of it in other men's lives. And I've been doing it with other boys, with other men's sons for 15 years. That's probably the one I'm most excited about is my family's own personal surf trip.
Heck yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head too. You said the word culture, and that's really what that question's aiming at is like, as a father, what kind of culture are you creating and, with your kids? It's awesome. I think you already kind of touched on the other one, so we'll move on to this last one I have here before some fun questions. But in your home, we're not making any, we're not positing on any kind of big sociological stance of mothers and fathers, right? But we want to ask, like, in your home, how do you see the role of a father differ from that of a mother? And not even just directly with your kids, but just in the home, in the environment, because the whole point of this series is to point out that fathers are important. We all know how important mothers are. And we're planning on doing a mother series too, where we have moms on to talk, because Pat and I are not moms. But, you know, in your own home, how do you see that differ between the two of you? And I'm sure that I will say this, and I think you can probably relate to this. I saw my mom take on a lot of the fatherly duties as a single parent when I was growing up. But even though I think she's my hero, we have an awesome relationship today, and I still think she did a great job. I'm very much a firm believer that there's just some things that the father is supposed to do, and that there's things that the mother's supposed to do, and that they're better at. And I'm kind of wondering, what's this environment look like in your home?
Yeah, it's a team. And I think it's such a good question, because it's like the way that my wife and I do it is so particular to how we're wired, what we saw, and what we like to do. And I only know sons. Like I have no idea the joy that it is to be a father to little girls. Mm-hmm. All my buddies with daughters, like they are getting to taste and experience and live something that sadly won't be something that I'll get to know about. And so I can't speak to that, because I do think being a dad to a little girl, you have got to learn a whole different skill set that makes you better than being a dad to boys only. But right now, I'm a dad to boys only. And I think discipline is a place where fathers are to establish a line and hold it. And of course, that's a mother-father thing. But for whatever reason, in our home, like you just, and in others, you'll just watch boys respond differently to their dad's voice than to their mom's voice. And also, sometimes when they're hurt, they will run to one over the other. So you're watching them kind of like narrow in on what they need. And boys they thrive in structure, and discipline is structure. They thrive in structure. Give me clear chalk lines so we can play a good game. So if you're a fuzzy dad, you're a wishy-washy dad, you're unsure about what you even think is like right or wrong on this, that, or the other, that's fine until it's not anymore. And basically when you're a dad, all of a sudden you have to start thinking like, wait, how do they talk back to me? What are the rules? Because all of a sudden you're like, I'm making them all. Like I'm literally making all the rules. That's not how you talk to your mom. My wife and I really believe in cross snatching is kind of probably what we would call it. So like if I am engaging one of the boys and she hears it, she might just come swoop in like a hawk without them knowing it, snatch them up and be like, that's not how you're going to talk to your dad.
Ooh.
And I definitely do that. And it's great when they don't know that I'm even around. Like it's bathtub time. They might think I'm out washing dishes or something, and Sarah's doing the bath, and I'm hearing a bit of sass, and I might just come in with a wet rag and just rat-a-tat-tat, and it's all fun and games until I come in and it's like, and I just go, you're not going to talk to your mom like that. Yeah. And that's really effective, because then it's like mom and dad are in agreement.
Team.
You can't come between us, because the mom. So like that's, and I think so there's some other places that are probably less big picture that just are the way that my wife and I just divide and conquer.
Yeah, and this is definitely supposed to be a question that, again, just what's it look like in your home?
Yeah. And so in our home, like my wife is a phenomenal cook. She loves cooking. She expresses her creativity even in how she cooks. So part of my job is to get everybody out of the house and entertain them. It's like, so I'm out there, I'm playing street hockey. Like today we were messing with a bull snake, or I'm on the trampoline, or out of this property that we're at for a little while. Like we're chasing the calves, but trying not to get mauled by the mama heifers. And like, I'm just like running this like entertainment, adventure, sport, play program inexhaustibly. Like that's like like honest to goodness, one of the reasons why I run is not because I feel his pleasure when I run, which is like some famous runner quote.
Yeah.
Like, why do you run? I feel his pleasure when I run. I'm like, no. I run because it is absolutely necessary that I am a fit, energetic, sleep super well, non-sleepy, non-lazy dad because I have 3 boys.
Yeah.
And it's like when my littlest is like, Daddy, play with me on the trampoline. It's like, you can't be like, oh, just jump. Just jump. Like, I'm get on there and play with them. And like, so that's my, like, so therefore, if I cook, like when I like grill or something, they're like, oh, Dad, this is amazing. And it's not. It's like something anybody could make, like steak. Like, anybody can like drop a piece of meat on the grill, turn it over and be like, I win.
Yeah.
But because it's novel. So then when my wife like gets on the floor and is like a bear, they like lose their minds because it's like, oh, it's usually, so it's like that kind of cross pollinating of like how we typically fall into some roles and stuff. And like, I'm always like, they're just getting to the point where like I'm making them do work, like yard work.
Yeah.
Like you have to pick up sticks before I mow. And I haven't made them pick up poops yet because we have a dog, but like, you know, it's right there. It's like,
It's coming.
why? Because that's what men do.
Yeah.
Men work because work is a gift from God. Why? Because it is.
Yeah.
It's fulfilling and nothing more pathetic than a man who won't work. So
I feel like Pat chime in here too, but for me, I think my wife, and she listens to this, so I'm ecstatic for her to hear this, right?
go for it.
But I think my wife is the sexiest version of herself to me when she is like a hawk and swoops in and like stands by me or defends me. And like, especially like, you know, I don't have kids, but like we have families, right? And like if her family ever says something or my family ever says something or friends ever say anything, and like I'm thinking about like the gentle response maybe, and she's just like, she swoops in and says something like, actually, you know, we don't really do that, or actually we don't, you know, divorce is a word that her and I have agreed, like we just think it's a nasty word. It's
Smart.
not funny.
You shouldn't say it.
It's not a funny word to even joke about. And like there's a time where a couple of her family members were making light of it when we were engaged, and dude, I remember she came in and she was like, hey, we don't use that word and we don't think those jokes are funny. And bro, I was like, it's gonna be hard to make it to the wedding because like, I want to make babies with you right now. Like, and like just, and I think it's because I grew up so much of my life, you know, really defending myself. And, you know, my mom never had to really stand up for me because I never really wanted, you know, I wanted to be tough and not bring problems home to her or anything like that. So being in a place where like I'm vulnerable and like seeing my wife, who's such a gentle woman, come in and do that, I'm just like, oh, that's hot. That's hot. And I'm just wondering, like, do you have that experience, like, as that co-parenting thing where, like, you guys are, like, working as this team and you're just like, wow, my wife is hot. Like, this, I love that she just stood in here. And it's not maybe that I even felt like I needed it, but the fact that she just loves me enough to come in and, like, you're not going to talk to your dad that way.
That's it. I can see how when you're in that moment, it hasn't been hot. I wouldn't be like, sure, okay, it's hot. But I could, because I'm tired. Like when you're in that moment, you're usually tired. But it's deeply affirming to be like, we are a team. And even these little ones who we love, with a love that's like, it's tremendous, will not come between us. And that is for their good. That is like a deep, deep affirming thing. So it's more that, or it's like, I've got you. It's like a Top Gun scene where like somebody has your six, but you didn't know it. And so it's like, oh, you're trying to stay in it. You're trying to like not let that escalate with the kid or whatever. And then somebody just comes in and like snatches them by the nape of the neck, hauls them out. And you're like, okay. Because when you're in it, you sometimes can't, like when you're the one, you know, whatever it is, dealing with two little boys who are, shuffling around their room and they've blown through 2-minute timers to get ready, and you've already threatened all kinds of stuff, but you just don't really want to.
You want to go.
It's not the night
it.
when you want to just come in with a paddle and just tear it up. You're like, nah, you know they're tired or whatever.
Yeah.
But then maybe that's her doing it, but like, and then somebody just comes in and goes, no, everybody is getting spankings in here. And I haven't even been involved in the project, and I'm coming in and taking over, and you're cleared off, and I'm taking, and it's just like, okay. And then it just gets real quick for them, because they were teasing it out, because boys are always trying to find out.
Push that line.
Yeah, just like a silverback gorilla. Like, where's the electric fence? And can I? They're always doing that. And so it's good to reestablish with some real fervor.
Thank you.
So it's more just like deeply affirming. And the other person, and it's amazing how you can like discipline and come out of the room and just go right back to like joking with your spouse. Because you know, you're not trying to, you don't want to discipline out of anger.
Yeah.
That's like a major thing in dog training. It's a major thing in old school parenting books. It's kind of fallen out of vogue to really to discipline your dog or discipline your kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of fallen out of.
I agree. No, you're
It's
in
not
a
something that
safe
people.
place.
It's not something that people talk about, but it's sad because it really is necessary for dogs and for children. It's necessary for mammals. If you want to train them. And so anyway, co-training is invigorating.
Heck yeah. Love it. Pat, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I just agree that, I think because when you're in it, when you're in the middle of it, you're in the thick of it, you're trying to not make emotional decisions, because a kid says something and you're just like, if an adult said that to me right now, there'd be a serious problem. Like there'd be lawsuits, whatever, there'd be an issue, and like, I need someone to get me out. Like sometimes also like the person coming in to also like maybe do that disciplinary act is like also like not only saving you, but they're saving the kid a little too. Just like, it's like, all right, we need to like help this situation reach its ending, So yeah, I definitely hear that for sure.
All right, so I have this book read. It's a book I love. Had it for years. I can't remember who first gave it to me. I think it was my grandpa, maybe my mom. But the book is called Shit My Dad Says. And it's a hardcover book with a little case on it. And the case has got this like, stern looking Italian kind of dad holding a baseball bat and baseball. It's like a picture out of the 70s, And the whole book is just this guy cataloging all the things his dad said and how silly and funny they were. And I was wondering, man, like what's some shit you say, Red? Like what are some of the things that you say that you're like, they're on repeat, they're go-to expressions or sayings, and to your kids, they still might be just beyond them like that. What does that even mean? And as an example, I'll tell you one, you might have heard this. My mother always said, whenever I wanted anything, like a toy at the store or something like that. She was very, they bought me toys all the time, but she would say, well, want in one hand and shit in the other. See which one fills up first.
She would say that to you?
Yeah. And
I've heard that.
I just thought, I remember for years, that was just perplexing. What does that mean? Why would she say that? I don't understand. And, eventually it made sense to me, but like, it's one of those things like parents say just the darndest things.
Yeah. That reminds me of something that we've been saying since you take little kids on airplanes, you have to have a way of discussing the fact that they're going to see things. So I just go, just because you see it doesn't mean you can have it. So like they see a kid on an iPad, I want that. I go, nah. Just because you see it doesn't mean you can have it. Yeah. So that's for sure one. Stop crying. Yeah, I'm a huge believer in crying. But I don't want to say but. I'm a huge believer in crying, and I want them to be tough around like physical things. So like I want them to be like to have a lot of emotional bandwidth and resiliency and EQ even. Like I want them to be able to read a room and like not be like an idiot. And sometimes when they get spun up, I'll just be like, hey, you need to stop crying. You're overreacting. You're taking a little deal and we're bringing this up to like a big deal. But they'll just hear my wife and I say, stop crying, which I think could be totally misunderstood.
No, you got to do it because kids getting bent out of shape. They didn't get, like my kid didn't get to hold the bag of goldfish. And it's become a whole thing. And it's like, hey, son, we're going to stop crying about this right now.
Right. Okay. So I'm not crazy.
No, it's what you got to do, because they got to learn. You learn when there is a time. It makes your tears worth it too. You're not just a crying, whiny baby. It's like we can cry. And when my kid, he freaking takes a header off the table. It's like we can cry for a second about this.
Totally. There's different words. So I go. They're always trying to decide like who might get a spanking, like what, because we don't spank very often. Because we try to only spank for outright rebellion.
Yeah.
So, and it gets there sometimes, but like I've popped them so that there's all different levels. Like a pop is like I used to do a 2-finger thing on their little mouths when they're little. If they were sassing, just a little, like the littlest nothing,
get their attention.
Just kind of, and they would go, "Why did you spank me?" And I was like, "Ooh, I wasn't like that's a pop." And they're always, what's a pop,
Yeah.
or what's a or a sting. A sting is just a little towel pop. That's a sting, which is more recent because we have these great dish rags at this place where we're staying. I'm like, these dish rags are profoundly effective at like a
nice little snap.
And that's just if they're lollygagging. I'll be like, hey, it's all like somebody's lollygagging right now. I don't know who it is, but if I find out who's like, it's like the whole system just slowed way down. And of course, I'm trying to slow down.
Yeah.
But sometimes in the morning, we're trying to get out of there. And, oh man, like, so we have to. I weirdly have all of my kids want to speak all the time. I do not have a quiet one who's just like taking it in. So we have to do at our dinner table. We have to do whole periods of time where none of them can talk because my littlest is getting upset because he can't get his sentences out, and my middle one's trying to tell a story, but like it started as a real story, and then it just evolved into like this crazy myth, epic story. My oldest one is trying to communicate like real data, like some stuff that like really, and like he's just so much competition at the table to speak, and so we'll be like, all right, start a 3-minute stop. Everyone stop talking. I don't know if that's a thing though. I don't know if I have enough. I wonder if I have any data. It's like, I mean, no one has asked Mama how her day is. Like that's like into the meal, and then they all three, Mama, how was your day? Yeah. And then before she's even like a sentence or two into it, they've like, she said something that's like sparked something in their mind. It's like I'm watching 3 of me. 3 unhealthy versions of me.
I wasn't going to say it, but I'd say you're getting a little you're just getting some like, we get payback from our sons. I get it too. You're just looking down, you're like, huh, that's me. That's me coming back at me right now. That's great. Oh, that's funny.
I set timers, cleanup timers all the time. Like I've after watching this one in-home daycare lady, I saw her command things from children that I didn't even think were possible.
It's like Mary Poppins in that thing.
Her house was a total mess, and we came to see what was going on. She goes, okay, everybody, I need everything cleaned up right now. And she snapped her fingers, and it was like, and it wasn't messed up. It wasn't like, whoa, it was like magical. It was like what fairies are supposed to be like. Like I was like watching little people put things back where they're supposed, and they gathered around her, sat down, and I was like, I didn't know that was possible.
What did you feed them? What?
And it's just consistency and clarity. And so I'll be like, hey, this room's a mess. You have 30 seconds to clean this room. And they'll be like, I don't even know. I can't possibly. And I'm like, starting now. I just close the door. And they know now, like, there's no time to gnash their teeth on it. Like, it's like, just go.
Yeah.
And it never even takes that long. It's like, throw these clothes in the dryer, throw these in the laundry, throw this here, throw that. Like, just.
That's great.
But I don't know if I don't know if I'm established enough to
It's
have
all right.
good
It's all right.
dadisms.
You miss it, right around like, that 50, 60 mark, you really start to like some of those just those they turn into the grandpa-isms, too, as it comes along.
Yeah, my grandpa had some great ones.
Any of those that come to
Yeah,
mind?
share any of those that you want to.
Oh, you say there's only 4 kinds of fare. Someone goes, that's not fair. There's only 4 kinds of fare. There's a carnival. He would go, there's my skin, there's the weather, and there's the fee you pay your taxi cab driver. And there's actually another one. There's 5 kinds of fare. But then by the time you say as many, if you make it too long, it's like it loses its impact.
Yeah.
When you would, little kids will be watching something and they just kind of drift and stand in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
They're just standing directly between you and what you're watching because they just get mesmerized by it. And he would always go, you make a great window, but you'd make a better door. And so, but then he would just shorten it. So you make a great door. And I never knew what he was talking about. Like, that's when I think, that's what I think you're getting at is like things parents say or grandparents say, and you have no idea what they're talking about.
Mm.
Like, we can't heat the whole neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that one.
Like,
I just
we can't heat the whole
whiplash on that.
And you're just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense. And he's just saying, like, close the door.
Yeah.
You're letting all the heat out.
Yeah.
You can't afford to heat the whole neighborhood. But like as a kid, when they just shorten it to like you can't heat the whole neighborhood, you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Part of me thinks too, though, like as I've gotten to know more people who, are in that parenthood stage, like I think there's a joy in saying that and watching the child confused. Like just like, what are you saying? Like there's just like a pleasure in like knowing like you've said something that's perplexed them, and it's almost more fun to watch them try to figure it out.
I don't know, because then they ask. I was watching my son's playing on a soccer team, and the coach was trying to explain to them to pass the ball to where the person will be.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, we're going to do a drill. We're going to pass a space. And he goes, Woods, I want you to go to space. And this little boy looks at him and is like, what?
Like in a rocket ship?
But the moment was so serious.
Yeah.
And the coach is like, what? And he's like, space? And it was just, that happens so often with little kids. They will hear word combinations in a way that's like almost like a puzzle. Like you'll say it and they say it back to you and it is the same sounds, but the way that they heard it, it's amazing. It's so much fun. We've tried to write them down, but
dude, I can still remember. I don't know. Maybe this is just stress as a child, but I can still remember trying to figure out how do I refer to something that happened that wasn't like a year ago or something. Like how do you refer to events in time? And I remember for years, probably until I was in like middle of elementary school, I would refer to things as like when I was 7, which I am 7 now. Like that's how I would describe anything that I'm like. I didn't know how to be like, I didn't know the word yesterday, and so I'd just be like, when I was 7, which I am now, my friend Timmy, I just like, I remember the amount of stress trying to figure out like, how do I explain how recent?
oh, that's really funny.
And the other one too, what was the other one?
When I was 38, which I am
now. I can't remember the other one off the top, but there's just like things like that I remember. Like even though those were like I was so little, I still remember like how do you talk about that? Like how do you use? Oh, I spent like induced years of panic in windows of seconds when someone would cough. Because I always watch, you watch adults and like adults say bless you after someone sneezes. When people would cough, I'd just be like, I should say something, but what do I say? And like just that like wondering, like, and like that's how a kid's brain operates though. Like you see a behavior and a response from adults. And then I just remember when people would cough, I'd just be like, cough you. And like I didn't know what to fill in there, And I can still just remember the panic as like a little kid trying to process and figure those things out.
We just had a moment like that the other day. My son did something thoughtful, brought something over to me or whatever. And I was like, hey, my middle son, I was like, thank you for doing that. And he just got this look on his face. He goes, I'm always here, Daddy. But it's like he said it wrong. It's like somehow even that doesn't, it's like he didn't say I'm always here, Daddy. He just goes, I'm always here. Like he had just said, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Or I got you.
Yeah.
But he said it in a different way. And it made my wife and I just started dying laughing. And
That's incredible.
hilarious.
Kids, dude, they're fascinating. You spoke earlier about how you heard all these stories of your dad growing up. What's a story of your dad that you just really like? You know, and again, these are kind of like our closing, ending questions of just good stories of, you know, fatherhood or stuff like that. You know?
I heard a story about my dad from one of his uncles. Homecoming, Bakersfield, California. There was a hill behind the stadium. Him and his brother, one of his other brothers, worked for a rancher, and they knew that the rancher had dynamite in one of his sheds. And they buried, I think they buried a piece of dynamite in the hill. I don't know how much.
What?
And at this pivotal moment during homecoming or a big game, they blew up the hill. And the explosion was so significant that it sent like clods of earth the size of like car tires and the size of like mattresses
Oh my gosh.
onto the field, into the stands, into the parking lot. And it was like a humongous disaster.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my Lord.
They were looking for like a movie scene of like, oh, la 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 la, hey, boom, like something like that. And what happened is, it was like, it just blew
a
like
hillside.
exploded this hillside forward and just. And I was like, I get that.
Yeah.
Did they
that-
get caught? Like, did anyone ever figure it out that it was them?
I do think they were caught, but it was like, I think they were released because my dad's dad was a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I remember, I'd have to loop back with one of my dad's uncles about that too. But that's a story that I've heard that I'm like, that is crazy.
That's insane, dude.
When you're like, how much dynamite do you think we need? Like, this whole stick, dude.
Yeah.
That's what they're for. Like
Yeah.
a whole stick.
Yeah.
Like,
Holy smokes, man.
Oh, that's
That's
and it might have been
awesome.
more than that. I have no idea
Yeah.
how deep they dug it in.
Mm.
Because it blew, exploded forward instead of up because they dug into the back of the hill and put it in there. So like
Mhm.
the percussion and this,
That's insane.
it is. I
That is
agree.
awesome.
I agree.
That is awesome.
I agree.
All right, last one. Final question. What's your parting advice to new or soon to be dads?
Mm,
And I know there could be a million
I
things.
know. To new dads, it's a little different because if you're a soon to be dad, I would say just do a little bit of work to get ready.
Mm-hmm.
Read a book. If you're like, sign up for a class, because it's like if you were gonna get if I told you I was gonna give you a Ducati, which is a bike that requires a little more maintenance, but is worth it.
Okay.
You would be an idiot to not read up on what was about to be given to you. Why do people love these? Why does it sound? Why does it have that iconic guttural report through the exhaust, etc.? Guys are good at doing this stuff with other things.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, here's an antique over and under. Here's some brief story, but yeah, you learn more about it. You got to do that with babies. You
Mhm.
got to be like, what am I not like, oh, babe, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's a super lame way to live. Hey, babe, tell me what to do. Happy wife, happy life. It's like, no. No, like, do some work, do some reading, read up on it, and feel competent for like how to hold a baby before you hold your baby. Just do a little bit of work. Like, just like Same thing we would do on any, like if you're, it wouldn't surprise me at all if you're like, hey man, I'm going to take you on this epic fly fishing trip. You should do some dry casting at your house. Like you would see a dude like a bozo out in the front yard, just casting an indicator around.
Yeah.
But like, we don't always think that way about this massive invitation into fatherhood at that level of infancy. But I think you want to start the way that you mean to go. So you start with the end in mind. So how do you want to be when they're 16? Start now. Start being intentional, thoughtful about a 2-week-old in the house and what we're going to need. And you already know, like, we might try. We're going to try and do breastfeeding. But like, I already actually know, like I've done a little bit of reading on like what the 2 best formulas might be in case we need to go that route. And of course the hospital is going to have like blah, 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 blah. Just like still stay in your groove as a guy there as well. So that's one. That's way more practical. I think you guys probably know this, but I think the other is like cultivate a real rhythm with Jesus. It really matters. So much of what you bring to the table is unseen. It's like there's all the preparation, but there's also the spirit by which you come. And I tell people all the time when they're prepping to like speak about from the Bible, I'm like, your prep and your notes, that is important. It's really important. But the spirit by which you come is actually the most important. Like, do you think, is Jesus like referencing his notes when he's giving the Sermon on the Mount? Like the chosen, that wonderful, they kind of give you like a picture of Jesus kind of preparing a sermon. And I think he thought through it for sure. But I don't think it was quite as, I don't think speaking back then was quite as, it wasn't quite as a Western endeavor, the way that we know it, where it's more of a production. Why did I get off on this right now?
You're talking about having that
coming in the
relationship
spirit of it, what you're bringing in that.
What's the deep waters of your quiet, private life with the Lord? And is it deep? Like, what is the deep waters? Keep that, protect that. And is it deep? And if it's not, well, just begin to dig in there and find a rhythm with the Lord that is going to inform like what your barometer is on the fly. Like that secret time and space that we spend with Jesus over here does bleed through to the live action moments that happen when you're a dad, when you have to make the call on something and you need a truer north than what you're currently reading right in front of you. You need a better, deeper current to be able to drop into. And if you haven't been cultivating it, you won't have it. And if you have been, it'll be there and you'll be surprised by the flow, by the strength of the current. And that, have you experienced that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It even goes back to what you were saying at the very beginning about these kids watching you and emulating more what you do than even what you teach, because these kids are going to see how you behave and they're going to see the man you are, and they're going to, that example is going to be how they live out their life. So I think that's right on the nose with how to be the best, father you can be, is to be someone who is, working on themselves in that relationship. So I see that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Red, thank you so much, man.
Thank you guys.
Absolute pleasure having you on, and feel like it warrants having you come on to talk about other stuff. It's been such a good time, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's been fruitful for you, and as always, like our kind of goal is that fathers would walk away from this feeling like stoked to get home and be with that family, and know that they're helping other fathers out there, other young men who are looking forward to being fathers. So Pat, you want to wrap us up and kind of let the crew, the kin know what's ahead?
Yeah, for sure.
There's the tiniest bit of Stranger Things with the background music.
Yeah, it's got some Stranger
It's some
Things
synth
vibes in
80s. It's more like, I picture it more Miami Vice, this playlist. is more kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, he's
It
got
happened to me a few times.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
It'll grab your ear.
Yeah,
You're not ready for
yeah.
it. Trying to complete a thought for sure.
It's what all the kids are listening to. You know, we're just trying to make sure to reel them in.
I don't know. I don't know what kids are listening to.
For sure. But hey, Ken out there, we're glad you're listening. We hope you got something out of this fatherhood podcast series, and we want to keep doing these short and more intentional series where we dive into specific topics, specific issues, and just hear from people, hear their stories, hear their perspective, hear their understanding about those things that we're diving into. And so we are going to, like Mick said at the beginning, we may have one more on this one, or this one might be the capstone. So we'll see on that. But we are glad you're listening, glad you're tuning in, and until next time, Ken.
Till next time.
Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.